Welcome back to another video, everyone. Today we'll be talking about another one of my guilty pleasures. Well, okay, actually, like Twilight, I'm not that guilty about this, but I do recognize that it's not exactly a good show. The 100. Okay, first of all, before I get attacked, okay, season 1 to 3 of The 100 is actually quite good, honestly. It's a great story with interesting conflict and pretty good acting, she said hesitantly, as far as I can remember. At some point, I will do a series breakdown and look at each season. Yes, each season, all the way up to season 7. But first, I wanted to talk about something far more interesting: the Grounders. Now, I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that the Grounders are typically my favorite characters. Lincoln, Indra, Gaia, Rowan, Amori, Echo, Maddie, Gustus, Anya, Luna, and of course, our commander, Lexa. I'll throw Octavia in there as well as an honorable mention because she trains as a grounder and basically embraces everything about them, and she becomes so badass because of it. Now, this is of course not to say that there aren't other fan favorites, obviously. I personally love Murphy, as annoying as he could often be, because I mean, you could never call him boring, right? And I also love Raven, because I mean, come on, who doesn't love Raven? But there's just something about the Grounders that was always more interesting than anything happening with the Sky Crew, for me at least. So let's talk about why. First, a very quick, very brief explanation of the whole premise of the 100, in case anybody watching this video hasn't seen it somehow, so that we're all on the same page about who the Grounders are. Basically, in the year 2052, there was a nuclear apocalypse that destroyed the surface of the Earth. But there were some people who were in space at the time, and those people are the only human beings left alive, or so they think. 97 years later, because of depleting resources, chief among them, oxygen, kind of important, right? The people in space decide to send down 100 delinquents to see if the Earth's surface is once again survivable. Lo and behold, there are people already on the ground, the descendants of the people that survived the nuclear apocalypse. These are the people that the Sky people refer to as Grounders. Very creative, I know. The Grounders far outnumber the Sky people, by the way. Like, there are thousands of Grounders and only about like 400 or 500 Sky people. Now, at first, the Grounders are a complete mystery. They don't speak English, once again, or so they think. They're mostly just seen as aggressive and dangerous and primitive and savage, and the delinquents do everything they can to fight for their lives. But as the show goes on, we learn more about the Grounders' culture and politics and beliefs, and to tell you the truth, it's all just a lot more interesting than Sky people politics. First of all, I love the Grounders' vibe, aesthetic. I'm not sure what the word is exactly, but I think you know what I mean. Without even knowing a single thing about them, just look at any Grounder and you'll get the gist of who they are. They're strong, intimidating, they're dangerous, they're smart. It doesn't matter which Grounder you choose, they all have the same energy. They all have the same powerful look in their eyes. Their design is so well thought out, from their clothes to their face paint to their weapons, so that the essence of the Grounders is always clear. It can be easy to forget, but the 100 are all kids. Well, Bellamy isn't a kid. He's a like full adult. He's like working, I think, back up in the sky. I think he's 23. Raven is like maybe she's 19 or 20. Raven is 19. Clark turns 18 during the course of like season 1, because it was almost her birthday when they sent her down to the ground and she was already 17. Basically, those three are the oldest members of the 100. So, I mean, no wonder they formed the quote unquote leadership council for most of the series, right? I think Miller is also 18. And Murphy might have turned 18 in season 1. Anyway, the point is that they're all either minors or just turned 18 when most of the drama is taking place. On the Grounder side of things, everyone is an adult. Lexa and Gaia are probably among the youngest Grounders we spend a lot of time with. Obviously, Maddie is the youngest. And they are both in their early 20s when we meet them. Lincoln is supposed to be in his mid-20s. So let that sink in as you think about his epic romance with Octavia, who is 17 years old at the oldest. Indra is probably like late 30s, early 40s, and so on. So naturally, the Grounders just have a more mature feel. They seem to actually be in control, like, of themselves and also like the situations they're in. They feel composed, you know? Maybe that adds to the vibe I was talking about before. Whereas the delinquents always feel like they're scrambling and in chaos, making stupid, not at all thought out decisions. I so badly want a spin-off that just focuses on the Grounders society. Like, I want to know what it looked like before Lexa formed the coalition. I've always wondered what exactly the role of the commander was in a society that wasn't united. There were smaller coalitions between clans, but basically they were always at war with each other, and yet they all recognized the commander as the higher power. Like, how did that work? Honestly, if anyone can explain this to me, please leave a comment, because I desperately want to understand this. I want to spend time in each clan and learn about how Tree Crew differs from Sangeta Crew or Trishana Crew. Do they have different languages, or do they all just speak Trigeta slang? Like, maybe this gives them different accents, so you can more or less tell where people are from based on how they speak. Tree Crew is basically what our society looks like now. We already understand how they work and the rules that they live by. We already understand their morals and their priorities. The Grounders are different. They somehow built this society on the back of the ruins of our current society. How did they get there? Why are there 12 clans if they all descend from the same survivors? It's only been 90 years, after all, so what happened? With the introduction of Ali and then the chip taking everything over and the second death wave, the story just went on an insane path down barely understandable technology and futuristic mumbo-jumbo that ultimately just killed what made the show interesting. Again, for me, at least. I would have much preferred if after Lexa's death, which I shall not be mentioning again because the pain is still very real, we just got thrown even deeper into Grounder politics. We'd have to watch the conclave. Would the coalition survive? I mean, Asgetta would definitely make things difficult. And what would Sky Crew's place in all this be? Many Grounders would probably blame them for Lexa's death. Imagine Indra's reaction. LOL. Like, she was begging to kill Clark when Lexa was alive. I doubt she'd have any reason to hold back now. All the while, Pike is still stirring up trouble. Oh, how I wish for this alternate version of the 100. What it all boils down to, I think, is often portrayed in the introduction of most of the Grounders. When we first meet Lincoln, we think he's attacking Octavia, only to find out he's saving her. When we first meet Indra, like I said, she's foaming at the mouth to kill Clark, yet she becomes one of their strongest allies. Maddie also attacks Clark on their first meeting, but she ends up being Clark's daughter. Lexa is introduced as a weak servant, and then psych! She's the commander of everything and the fiercest warrior. It's not that who they are introduced as isn't who they truly are, it's just that we don't understand them well enough yet to put those first impressions in context. Lexa isn't weak, but she's cunning. She's intelligent, and she knows how to manipulate her opponents. Indra isn't some bloodthirsty warrior. She's the chief of Tondisi and is fiercely attempting to avenge/protect her people from Clark, who has already proven to be a huge threat. Maddie as well isn't some savage wild child. She's a smart, resourceful girl doing what she thinks she has to do in order to survive. Lincoln is and can be very dangerous when necessary, but he's honestly just a big old softie. He doesn't like unnecessary cruelty or violence, and he generally prioritizes protecting the weak over simply categorizing people into us versus them. There's a reason behind everything the Grounders do. There's a reason they are the way they are. And what makes them so fascinating is the chipping away of that first impression, of our assumptions, and showing us what's underneath. Scenes like Lexa telling Clark how she lost someone she loved, showing vulnerability that we hadn't seen in the Stoic Commander before. Scenes like Anya lying on her back in the mud after a fight with Clark, a fight where Clark almost killed her, and smiling as she says, "You fought well." Scenes like Indra telling Octavia that she knew Lexa knew about the missile that again almost killed her, and yet she still believes Lexa is a great commander. Scenes that tell us there's so much more under the surface. That's the novelty of the Grounders. That's why season 2 and 3 are honestly the best ones, in my humble opinion. That's why we love these characters just a little bit more than we love the more familiar Sky Crew. We want them to survive, not just because we like them as characters, but because of the many different paths the story could take just because that character exists. They make the world feel big and rich in history. They make it feel real and lived in. I will never understand why the showrunners were so willing to just ignore and then completely destroy the Grounders culture just as we were getting to know it better. Such a missed opportunity, and for what? We went back into space and began exploring new planets before we'd even actually spent any time on Earth with the Grounders and the people and society that they'd been teasing us with since season 1. Before we'd actually gotten to see the scope of the coalition that Lexa commanded. I mean, there are 12 clans and we only see Tree Crew territory and maybe Sangera Crew in the desert, though those might have been the nomadic Grounders, I cannot remember, and Flow Crew with Luna. If we ever return to the 100 universe, I will accept nothing other than a story about the Grounders. That's the spin-off we need. Sadly, I don't think we'll ever get it. But that's it for this video. If you want to hear me talk more about our favorite Grounders, leave a comment down below. Otherwise, subscribe to make sure you don't miss my season breakdown of the 100 coming soon. Bye!